What's up, guys? It's your girl, VIP Panda. Wait a minute. No, this is Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. And my name's Jake. And fittingly today, we're starting with a correction. I was told by a viewer yesterday that, rather, it was pointed out to me by a viewer yesterday quite correctly, that I had said no Republican candidate won the popular vote in the last 30 years. Not accurate. In 2004, George W. Bush did, and that's a great jumping off point for a brief segment, very quick segment, a little history lesson, which is good to know because it tells you a lot about what we can expect from Republicans and, in fact, warmongers in general going forward. In 2004, George W. Bush had already gotten us into the Iraq War. He did this based upon a lie, and this is something we touch on as often as we can, which is that he said that there was intelligence confirming that, or suggesting that, Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. In fact, there was intelligence affirming the fact that they did not. So the opposite of what he told the American people. And then he sent troops overseas to begin a war that would last 2 decades. And back when we believed the guy, there was support for him, and there was support for seeing this war through. If you recall the feeling in the country at the time, if you were of an age that this was possible for you, everybody was really scared. There was people in small towns wondering if a terrorist attack was going to happen in their town. 9/11 threw America off that much. The reason you have to take your shoes off at airports is because a guy that was flying to Detroit tried to sneak in an explosive in his shoes. The reason the TSA is such a presence if you travel is because of 9/11 and the effects that came as a result of it. But the correction stands. Doesn't matter if George W. Bush lied about the Iraq War. He did get the popular vote in 2004. So consider me corrected. Made a slide for that. Apparently I didn't load it up. On a related note, I have been following the House vote for Speaker, the Speaker of the House vote, as most people would watch conventional pornography. But my plan was, in about 20 minutes here, my plan was to cover that live. I still hope to, but I have discovered over the course of the last day, I may not be able to. I have a computer set up for editing that I have begun using for live streaming, and apparently those require very different specifications, so I'm going to have to get to it over the weekend and do some tech work and make sure that I am able to cover these things live without putting myself in a position where it takes me 16 hours to get my streaming setup back. So, hopefully I'll be covering that. Let me take this again. I'll be covering that in some form no matter what. It's too good. It's too good to miss. It is hilarious, and it's also very indicative of the state of various factions running our government. On a related note, there's a gentleman online named Beau of the Fifth Column, and I've been waiting to do a video on him, or featuring him, really. Issue being, I tend to agree with this guy so much that I usually don't have anything like to add or to say yes, but. So, hell, maybe I'll just drop random links in the the further reading section of the show notes. Who knows? But in this case, I got lucky. Finally, I disagree with him on something, and it's something that we are discussing quite a bit here, which is Democratic strategy as it pertains to the Speaker of the House vote. let's have a look at his video, and I'll go into, I'll break in to explain where we differ and why.
Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Beau again. So today we are going to talk about McCarthy.
I'll also break in to occasionally say, my word, those dulcet tones. Every time I hear, well, howdy there, people, it's Beau again. It's like sipping a hot chocolate.
And that circus that is occurring up on Capitol Hill. Now, at time of filming, I believe they have just finished the 7th, I think, vote.
Oh, you sweet summer
and there's
child.
still no outcome. But that may change in between the time this is filmed and the time it goes public. I feel like the Democratic Party is missing an opportunity to truly exercise leverage, and a lot of it. And this is one of the main issues with the Democratic Party, is they don't play hardball when they have the chance. There are a lot of ideas out there about how things can go well for the Democratic Party here. You know, talking about peeling off some Republicans to vote for a Democratic candidate, all kinds of stuff. Most of it is incredibly unlikely, and even if it was successful, it wouldn't really accomplish a whole lot. It'd be a great symbolic victory, but I don't know that it would really do anything. So what leverage do they have? We have to be honest about what the Speaker in the House is going to do over the next couple years. Nothing. They're going to obstruct, and they're going to hold investigations that are going to amount to nothing. That's what they're going to do. Doesn't matter who it is. That's what's going to happen. The idea that the right speaker is going to somehow further some kind of Republican policy, that's silly. There is no keynote Republican policy that is going to make it through the House and then make it through the Senate and then get signed by Biden.
I don't like doing that to people. You know, unless they are Sean Hannity, in which case can't get enough of it. So we have a disagreement here because, as with most things, where it comes to me disagreeing with somebody that I would describe as progressive, it's a small point, but I do think it's an important point. Yeah, he's right. There's not a law that's going to go through. It's not going to get proposed in the House, go make it through the Senate, and then get signed by Biden. That would, be something MAGA people would be excited about. But those committees they can form are going to matter. Most likely they are going to form a committee to, say, look into Hunter Biden's laptop. And the purpose of it is not to get a conviction of Hunter Biden for this or that. They'd love to do that, but that's not the point. They know they're liars, and they know they're lying. So why are they doing it? They're doing it so it dilutes the Jan 6 committee. They're aping what the Democrats are doing so that it looks like when Democrats are doing it, it's just a political stunt, just like they're doing a political stunt. And I think to some degree, the people that vote for him know that too. Every time you ask a Trump voter about the specifics, or, okay, what if this was done on the opposite side? What if Kamala Harris just, if in 2024 Republican wins and Kamala Harris says, no, though, we're gonna do this thing over, and they freeze up because obviously they wouldn't want that. So if you have a Speaker of the House, if we can somehow get a sane person to be the Speaker of the House, it does make a big difference, because those committees don't necessarily get formed then. But there's a bigger point we disagree on, and I say this with the disclosure that I may absolutely change my mind and later say, oh, shoot, that is a good strategy. But let's hear him out, because at the very least, it's an interesting take.
The Republican Party, they're not interested in governing. They want to obstruct. They want to make things as bad as possible for the average American so they stand a better chance in 2024. That's going to be their goal. It doesn't matter who the Speaker is. So What can the Democratic Party do about that? Nothing. But they can look to 2024 the same way the Republican Party is.
True.
Somebody in the Democratic Party walks in. Hi, Representative McCarthy. How are you doing today? You know the Sedition Caucus, that group of people who have humiliated you and undercut your power and your authority and painted you as somebody who can't unite the Republican Party, therefore putting a giant dent into any future presidential aspirations, and they did all of this while making you a national laughingstock? That group? Would you like to get even, sir? Because you don't have the votes. We do. So, if you were to publicly announce that you are taking all of the concessions that you have given to them off the table, we can snap our fingers and make you speaker. Now, understand, you can't go back on your word here, because if you do, you look even weaker. You're somebody who couldn't unite Republicans, and then, once you got help from the Democratic Party to become speaker, you still caved. That's how it will appear. You will be in even a worse position than you are right now. Then there's the catch.
All right, let's
if you do this, we will do our best to paint you as a bipartisan person. We'll make sure it's our more conservative members that vote for you. And we'll help you craft that image.
I love that in this video he's doing, he is acknowledging that there are conservative members of the Democrats. Not that he fails to talk about that in other cases. It's just important to point out, like, it is a big tent party, and the result is, even though you hear about, like, from Republicans, you hear about every Democrat being a socialist, almost none are.
But if you do this, the Sedition Caucus, they're coming for you.
True.
They are going to try to destroy you. So once you get that gavel, you have to render them completely irrelevant. You don't have a choice. Amazing? It's them or you. You have 2 hours to make this announcement. And if you don't, we'll take that as a no, and we'll give the votes to whoever wants to make Lauren Boebert speaker. Because she will not hesitate to use the gavel on you. And walk out.
Damn it.
That's
Here
it.
We go. All right. So overall, a really interesting suggestion for Democratic strategy here. But I have a problem with it. And in fact, I happen to know he already addressed this problem in the next video, or in another video that he did. I'll tell you what he said to that. Let's start with that one. You cannot trust any deal at all, you make with the grand old party, with Republicans at all. Anything they say they'll do needs to be backed up with a legal consequence if they do not do it, or at the very least, a built-in consequence. If you make a deal with McCarthy, and he says, okay, well, looks like I'm going to be the moderate now. Even if the man means it when he's sitting there in that office, as soon as the wind is blowing in another direction and he gets an opportunity to, oh, Christ, Jake, and he gets an opportunity to go back on his word in exchange for minor political favor from some insane group, he will. So no deal with McCarthy is worth anything at all. Now, that what he describes has built-in consequences, supposedly. Gates and Boebert and all the other, I like his words there, Sedition Caucus members would become his political enemies, and so there would be that constant enforcement mechanism, I suppose. Except that people that have no principles can change very easily. Change their opinions, change enemies very easily. Meaning that if those two factions see an opportunity for gain based on who they can gang up on, they'll drop all their previous bickering and get right to it. Think of Lindsey Graham saying that Trump shouldn't be the nominee in 2016, and that Republicans would suffer for it and deserve it if they did. Then Lindsey Graham was Trump's biggest supporter. Then J6 happened, and he said, "I'm out," and he panicked, and 'cause he's a coward, and got heckled to the bejesus by his own supporters, former supporters, and then he was back being Trump's buddy again, big supporter of Trump again. He said, "Well, we weren't fibbing then, or we were fibbing then, but we're not fibbing now," when he talked about his hypocrisy in regards to Supreme Court nominations. So Kevin McCarthy is no different. You cannot make a deal with Kevin McCarthy. It's that simple. He addressed that later in the video, or rather not in this video, in a later video. And essentially, if I recall correctly, pointed out the fact that Boebert and company would be the enforcement mechanism. Maybe. It's not, overall, it's really not a bad pitch for a way for Democrats to go. I just don't think that it's worth giving up the political stunt that the Republicans are helpfully doing for America right now just by infighting very publicly. I think we gain more for 2024 the longer this goes on, the more of a big deal this is. We're close to a point where it will affect the paychecks of staff for these people. If that becomes a big story, it has effect for 2024. I also think this is an opportunity to take advantage of, or rather for Democrats to show that they're not the same old Democrats, because Democrats are notorious, particularly among political nerds that have been following them for a while. They're notorious for doing the Charlie Brown football gag over and over and over with Republicans. They make a deal, then they get made fools of. And they look weak because they are weak. I mean, that's what it comes down to. So for them to show, no, we're not putting up with this nonsense anymore, I think is more valuable than whatever they could gain from getting their own, from lending their support to McCarthy. Then there is the other side of that. What does, he's judging me. He's judging me in this still. It hurts. I'm sorry, Beau. There's the other side of that. The Boebert thing, I would hope, would be an empty threat. Because even if she can't get anything done in the House, she still has on her political resume former House Speaker Boebert when she runs for the next giant thing. It makes her more of a serious candidate. In fact, part of what she's doing right now, trying to get on those major committees, is above her experience level. She's new to that place, relatively speaking. She should not be on any of those committees. To be Speaker of the House after only 2, 3, I forget how many years she's been there, that would make her look like a political superstar. So again, I'm disagreeing with this man only on the politics of it, only on the perception of it. It's a splitting of hairs. But the collection of these decisions does matter. The sum total of how Democrats perform does matter. So I disagree here, while at the same time saying it is an interesting strategy, and I think doing things like that in more sane political times is worth considering. Got a little bit more from Beau here, and I wouldn't dream of wasting any of it. Let's hear him out.
What you have done, what the Democratic Party would have done by doing this, is pit those two sides against each other for the next 2 years. They would be more interested in combating each other than obstructing. And on the off chance that Boebert ends up in that position, let chaos reign. Nothing's going to happen in the House in the next 2 years anyway. Let the Republican Party see what it's become. Let the voters see what's happened up there. See the type of people they have in office. Let all of those sound bites become national news. The extreme wing of the Republican Party, the media is currently calling the Sedition Caucus the conservatives. They're not conservative. Stop pretending that they are.
True.
They're the...
I just want to say, first of all, we just disagreed on the Boebert thing. Again, that comes down to perception and how it will be taken by the media and by the general public. Right here, though. Yes, exactly. They are not conservatives. Tell them why, Beau.
extreme wing.
Boom.
They are far right. They're not conservative. They're regressive.
Boom. Yes.
That crew likes to pretend that they have America on their side. And that's how they operate. These votes show that they don't.
True.
They don't. They don't even have the majority of the Republican Party establishment. Those people inside the Republican Party, they don't even have them on their side.
Get it.
They're not mavericks. They're not outsiders in the sense of they're trying to get something done. They're extremists. They are people who have fallen prey to the idea
Dead on.
that social media engagement translates to votes. They've had 3 election cycles to learn that's not necessarily true and that they need to stop, but they haven't. They haven't learned the lesson now. That's why they're doing this. Give them the speaker gavel and watch them propose more and more extreme legislation that will go nowhere.
Okay, so it's more on what if Boebert was in charge. Man, I do agree that it would paint them as the madmen they are, the psychos they are. But what is the cost of that? The other Republican policies that get put out that are just subtly evil, that are just that hurt black people and brown people and gay people and anybody else in 2 steps as opposed to 1, get diluted in the American attention span. I can't promise that that's what would happen. It's just, it has been my impression based upon the last 5-6 years now. It seems to be that the crazy Republican stuff gets more of a pass when the ultra crazy Republican stuff is getting all the headlines. Again, personal opinion. He's got another 48 seconds in here, but I'm not going to play it. However, I am going to hit you with the second best bit of every Beau video.
It doesn't seem likely. I feel like that if the Democratic Party was actually going to do this, they already would have done it. So
Probably true.
Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.
Warm cup of tea every time. Oh, gosh. Okay, so overall thoughts on Beau of the Fifth Column's video there. It's an interesting idea. It's an interesting strategy. I think it would require a less crazy Republican group and a more competent Democratic Party. I think in order for that to work, we just need a better breed of politicians working. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am indeed wrong. I can't even get a moisturizer that keeps my face from getting so dry that it's all one uniform color. So, hey, what do I know? That said, what we are definitely gaining from the House Speaker vote, and which has begun yet another round already, and I will try to cover after this video if it looks like I can do that without crashing my computer. The Republicans are a chaotic mess. So bare minimum, we are getting that, and America does see it, and that is good. Jake Tapper has somehow not been kicked out of the Council of Jakes. You have to understand, when we run the Council of Jakes, it's an annual vote as for membership, and Jake Tapper is usually hasn't done anything horrible lately when we take our vote. That said, this year I will remember to put his name up for getting kicked out of the Council of Jakes, and to free up also space for Jank Uger, which is not quite a Jake, but close enough, because I do not like Jake Tapper. It was a long way to get to that point. That said, he interviewed Michael Fanone, and he on the anniversary of January 6th. Let's have a look at what he had to say, and I'll tear into Tapper like a bag of Lay's about halfway through.
Earlier today, members gathered outside the Capitol to mark 2 years since the January 6th insurrection. Only one Republican showed up there, Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania. CNN's Evan Perez joins me now. Evan, prosecutors are still trying to bring rioters to justice. Dozens, if not hundreds of people could still face arrest stemming from the attack.
Yeah, Jake, the FBI says that they're going to keep at this until they find all these people. One of the big focuses, obviously, are the people who assaulted police officers. And here's some of the numbers just of the 2 years of this effort by the Justice Department. There are over 950 people who've been arrested. We know of 280 who've been charged with assault or resisting or impeding some of the officers there at the scene. 484 guilty pleas so far. Wow. And there's still about 40 defendants who've been found guilty in trials, including one today. We saw today one of the first rioters who kicked down a door and was one of the first to get into the Capitol. He was sentenced to 48 months in prison.
By the way, the thumbnail of this here video is somebody the FBI is still looking for that betrayed our country and tried to overturn your vote, tried to make your vote irrelevant. I've included a link in the description of the FBI's list of folks they're still looking for. Have a look at that list. A lot of these people have been found simply because responsible Americans looked over that list and recognized somebody on it. There was 10,000 people at that riot that tried to overthrow democracy in America. You might know someone. So there's a link in the description. If you want to have a click on it, you might be responsible for bagging yourself a traitor.
As a result of that.
And Evan, conspiracy charges are among the most serious. That's at the heart of the new trial against members of the Proud Boys, the far-right group. Where does that case stand at?
Well, it's in jury selection.
Also, I have to say, if you get one of the J6 people arrested, you are absolutely the wicked citizen of the day. Hands down. Do let me know in the comments if you do that. Good Lord.
Right now, and it's been interesting. Our team there, Hannah Rabinowitz and Holmes Librand, described a very contentious effort to seat a jury. We expect opening arguments to happen next week. But one of the things that they've struggled with is the fact that obviously the reputation of the Proud Boys in the city, getting people who don't have strong views about them, has been a bit of a challenge for prosecutors and for the defense. We expect, obviously, the Justice Department has been successful with the seditious conspiracy charges against members of the Oath Keepers, so they feel pretty good about this trial going in, Jake.
All right, Evan Perez, thanks so much. Let's bring in Michael Fanone now. He's a CNN law enforcement analyst and former D.C. police officer who almost died at the hands of that pro-Trump mob as he tried to defend the Capitol during the January 6th insurrection 2 years ago. He's also the author of the memoir, Hold the Line, The Insurrection and One Cop's Battle for America's Soul. And he is fresh off a visit to the White House, where he was one of only 14 people to receive one of the highest honors given to civilians, the Presidential Citizens Medal. First of all, congratulations on that. That's pretty cool. Your girls are here. Were they in the audience? Did they get to see you get the medal?
They did. Yes, they did. They got to meet
cool?
The president.
They said, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and your people might not know this, but you voted for Trump. I mean, here you are with Joe Biden. Was that weird, otherworldly, or is this just all been part of this long, strange trip you've been on?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's part of that long, strange trip you talked about. voted for Trump in 2016. I voted for Biden in 2020.
Yeah, real quick. So, first of all, for clarity's sake, this guy is literally an American hero. He's an American. He did a heroic act in defense of America. Doesn't matter that he collected a paycheck to do it. I do not like people that praise cops and military folks just for being cops and military folks. Or rather, I don't think people should do that. But those jobs do offer opportunities for heroism. Why are they opportunities for heroism? Because sometimes they ask you to do things where you could reasonably not be charged for just running away. You shouldn't be a cop anymore. But if you do it, if you are one of a handful of people that stand up against 10,000 rioters, you're goddamn right he's a hero. But no hero is perfect, because heroes are generally humans, unless you're a certain bear during WW2. But don't forget that Trump had targeted Muslims when he voted for him. He said awful things about Mexicans, saying that they were rapists and murderers, but some of them were fine people, or whatever the hell. So when he dips into his apologism in a moment here, or his rather weak response, don't forget that he is now a contributor on a major network, and he was fine at one point letting brown people get stomped on by a political party in exchange for who the hell knows what.
I was grateful for the opportunity to be acknowledged, not so much for what I did on January 6th, but for everything that I've done and what so many other Americans that were recognized today have done since then.
You and your fellow officers were beaten. You had a heart attack. It was a horrible experience. There's been physical recovery and emotional recovery, I'm sure. How are you doing on this 2-year anniversary?
Real quick, commenter asking, are we going to get to covering the vote? My plan is yes, but I'm not sure how well it's going to go in terms of my computer setup, so I'm going to pause this stream briefly while I set that up. Rather, this live stream will keep going, and I'm going to stop the recording and just rely on YouTube for the VOD for that.
With regards to the injuries
we should get the first round in about
on January
10
6th,
minutes. I
feel I've made a full recovery.
The physical ones.
The physical ones. And, again, I had a 20-year career in law enforcement to kind of desensitize me to the violence that I experienced that day. So I believe that I've, come to terms with the trauma of January 6th, the day. What continues, or what I continue to struggle with, is everything that's happened since then, and the issues that we continue to grapple with as a country regarding, the former president, the lies that he spewed, and the political violence that we've experienced as a result of them.
Yeah, and on that subject, while you were there at the White House being honored with Democrats and Republicans and independents by the president for standing up for democracy, for literally protecting democracy with your life. At the other side of other end of Pennsylvania Avenue, Republicans are working to elect a speaker. That speaker is likely going to be Kevin McCarthy, who you wrote in an opinion article on CNN.com. McCarthy told you that he couldn't control the fringe members of the party. And some people see what he's doing right now, not certainly with all the people that have been against him, but like with some of them, as empowering them. Congressman Scott Perry, for example, is, he's neck deep in January 6th. He's Justice Department asked for his phone. He introduced Jeff Clark to the Trump administration to try to get him to be the head of the Justice Department, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I could go on. Mm-hmm. Is it weird to be honored for your role in saving democracy while a lot of the people who seem to be opponents of that democracy are having a hell of a time in Congress right now? A good time, I mean.
Yeah, no, listen, nobody enjoys watching Kevin McCarthy squirm more than me. I'm not a fan. I don't think he possesses any leadership quality, let alone the quality to lead the House. That being said, I recognize the fact that while he struggles, it's empowering, the members of Congress, like you just described, either these insurrectionist sympathizing members or, members who may have contributed to the insurrection at the Capitol themselves. And so that's deeply concerning because they represent such a small segment of the Republican Party, and people that are sympathetic to January 6th represent such a small part of our country.
Do they, though? There's people in the Republican Party who were sympathetic to January 6th, and there's people in the Republican Party who were indifferent to January 6th, as in maybe they didn't think it was a good idea, maybe they didn't think it was going to be successful, but they're not interested in getting any justice for it. They're not interested in some of the politicians that were involved going to prison for it. Those folks are called sympathizers. We had them in the 40s, too. As a matter of fact, Rachel Maddow did an entire podcast on that, and it's fascinating. It's not good. And it's not okay to just pretend like the Republican Party is more or less a functioning, normal political party. It's just these few. It's not. It's all of them. It's just to what degree they are involved.
But yet here they are being empowered and emboldened by a weak, feckless candidate for speaker.
Yeah. You talk about condemning political violence not being a Democratic issue or a Republican issue. I completely agree. You say it's a moral issue. But it's weird because there was a House ceremony marking the 2-year anniversary of that horrific attack on the Capitol in which everybody's life was at stake. They were trying to hang Mike Pence. They were we saw images of Mitt Romney being escorted away by police. I think by Eugene Goodman, I'm not sure, et cetera, et cetera. Like Democrats' lives were at stake, Republicans' lives were at stake, and on and on. And yet only one Republican, if you look at the image right there, only one Republican member of Congress went to that event today, Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick, Republican from outside Philly in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
I want to put my marker down now. I think in 4 years that guy's a Democrat.
What do you make of that?
I'll say this. Over the past 2 years that I've been outspoken, or a year that I've been outspoken about January 6th, I have tried to walk a fine line when it comes to condemning Republicans. Nobody likes to be painted with a broad brush. Law enforcement certainly doesn't like that. And I don't believe that all Republicans are sympathetic to the MAGA agenda. That being said, it's very difficult to defend the Republican Party when only one of their members takes the time to show up and show support for law enforcement. It was there.
So he says, I don't believe that all Republicans are sympathetic. Okay, does that mean all but one? Because only one showed up to that ceremony. So to say, not all, technically, I guess. But what are you talking about, man? If the vast majority do, if 99% do you really? You got to ask what is that 1% person? What are they doing there? It's not a good idea to try to say there is the occasional exception in this political party, the occasional person who doesn't want to overthrow democracy. So we shouldn't be looking askance at the party. We should, very much so.
They're defending him that day. It's disgraceful. It's an embarrassment for their party, and it's disgraceful behavior. And as somebody who has previously supported Republican candidates, it's shameful. But they seem to be a party at this point in time that is without shame.
All right. Yep. Mr. Fanone, it's good to see you.
Thank you.
Nice to see your beautiful daughters over there. Congratulations on your award. And that must have been very exciting to be at the White House and see your dad get an award.
Well, all I can say is that Michael Fanone came out immediately after J6, spitting fire. And I think his attitude was correct there. time and a cushy job being a pundit seem to have affected his clarity on the issue. But overall, he's still correct. I mean, the fact that only one Republican showed up to that event should tell you just exactly what you need to know about this party. The Republican Party is at this point, in my opinion, not redeemable.